Hey y'all, it's Heather. I'm in the kitchen this afternoon and I have some rabbit meat that I need to can up. So stick around if you'd like to see how I do this. And if you're new here, my name's Heather. I live in South Carolina with my family and we just try to do what we can when we can for ourselves. Today, we're canning rabbit meat. I've already cooked my rabbit. I had whole rabbits in the freezer, took them out, put them in my big roaster last night, covered them with water and cooked them very low overnight. It tells you to cook them 2/3 of the way. But I cook my chicken and rabbit all the way, or else it's hard to get it off the bone. So this is how I do it because I don't like to can it with the bone in it. That's also an option. You could can it still on the bone, but I like to take all my meat off the bone. That way I can just dump it into like chicken noodle soup or stew or anything like that. So we're just going to go ahead and fill these jars up with the cooked meat, and my jars are cold, so I do not have my canner on. Oh, I said no bones, but I didn't. I missed that one. I need to put that back in my broth because I reserved all my bones to make bone broth out of, so they're on, and I'll let that cook for another day or so and add some vegetables to it, and then I'll can that up as well. But I was saying, the chicken is not cold out the refrigerator, but cooled. My jars have been washed, but they're just room temperature. I did not heat them, and then water straight out the faucet in my pot. The recipe that I follow is in the Ball Blue Book, and it says for hot pack to have everything hot, but I was not going to reheat the rabbit and broth and all that to get it hot. This is going to work just fine. This is the same way I do my chicken, and it always turns out just fine. I hope it all fits in these 7 quarts, because that'll be one full canner. And I'm not going to like really jam pack it in here. I'm just loosely packing it in there. And it looks like this is going to make the perfect amount to fill up my canner. So I'm excited about that. The little things, right? We're going to go ahead and add the broth to this. And this is just 1-inch headspace, what I'm leaving. And I did reserve broth from when I cooked the rabbits, but you could just cover it with water if you didn't do that. I'm going to get some more broth out of my cooker, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to put a butter knife down in here. I know you're supposed to use plastic, but this is just what I do. You can use plastic to do that. I'm just getting some air bubbles out. I think it could scratch the jar or maybe break it or something. I don't know. I've never had anything happen because I used a butter knife. I just wet this paper towel and I'm going to wipe the rims. Put some lids on here. And I see different people saying different things about the tightness of your jars. I don't really see a big difference whether you're like just trying. Some people say do your fingers like that so it won't do any tighter than finger tight. I just do it, I don't know what you would call it. I just put it on. I don't crank it down. I just twist it until it's tight. So everything was the same temperature whenever I put it in here. So I shouldn't have any breakage or anything like that. And that's why I do make sure everything is the same temperature. If my chicken and broth were hot, I would have had my pot on to put it in a hot canner. But everything was more like room temperature, I guess, from where the chicken had cooled, so I could handle it to take it off the bone. And then the broth had cooled as well while I was taking it off the bone. So it wasn't cold like out of the refrigerator. I know I already said that, but I thought it was worth repeating. Maybe not. Okay, so I need my lid. And I always like to just look through this thing to make sure I can see some light through there and make sure nothing's in there. And then, oh, got it right the first time. Usually I have to fiddle with it quite a bit to get it on there right. Okay, so I have let this steam for about 10 minutes, and I'm just going to put my little weight on here. Now, I don't use the one that came with the pot anymore, and it has 3 pieces. If you take them all off, then it's 5. Put one on that's 10 pounds, and the other one would be if you're doing 15 pounds of pressure. So I've used that for a couple years now, and I do like it. It helps me. It does seem to keep it a little bit more regulated. Anyway, I like it, so that's what I use. Okay, so what we're looking for here is going to be 10 pounds of pressure, and then we're going to turn our heat down, make sure that's regulated, start a timer for an hour and a half, and then an hour and a half we're going to take it, of course, cut the heat off, take it off the heat, and wait for the pressure to come down. But I'll bring you back in an hour and a half. Okay, so our hour and 30 minutes is up. I'm just going to cut this off, let it come down, the pressure come off by itself, and then I'll bring you back. Our pressure naturally came off. I opened the pot lid and let it sit there about 5 minutes before I pulled the jars of rabbit out. Okay, so it's the next day. They're completely cool. I'm going to take the rings off and wipe them down with a wet rag. And I have these little tags. They come blank. You can just get them from Amazon or somewhere. And I just write what it is and the month and the year, stick it on top, and then I'll put them in my pantry. And that's it. We'll have rabbit on the shelf. Okay, so that's it for me. I hope this inspired you to do something for yourself. If it's not this, maybe something else. All right, see y'all next time.